Welcome to the deep dive. We're engineered to take these huge, complex topics and, well, break them down into something you can really grasp.
And today, the topic is definitely complex.
It really is. We're diving into Kanye West, now legally known just as Ye.
Yeah, a figure who's simultaneously seen as, one of the greatest rappers ever, a revolutionary producer.
And also one of the most, let's say, polarizing figures in modern culture. It's a lot.
It is. And the scale is just immense. We're talking 24 Grammys, 160 million records sold, a career that's been shifting constantly since, 1996? Music, fashion, politics. It's everywhere.
Right. So our job today, our mission, is to navigate this huge, often contradictory history, and importantly, do it impartially.
We need to trace it all, from his early life, the music highs, through to the really extreme controversies lately.
Exactly. How did that college dropout challenging the system turn into this experimental titan? And crucially, how did that same drive lead to, well, everything that's happened recently? The lost deals, the public outcry.
It's like charting creative genius against almost cultural self-destruction.
So for you listening, this deep dive is set up so you can quickly get the key shifts. His creative work, his persona, the moments that changed everything, the highs, and the very intense lows.
We'll cover the artistic breakthroughs, the personal events that maybe triggered changes, and definitely the impact of his recent statements.
Okay, let's get started. Where do we begin? The foundation, right. Chicago.
Yeah, to really get Yes' ambition, that confidence, you have to look at his upbringing. Born in Atlanta in 1977, but mostly raised in Chicago after his parents divorced when he was about 3.
And it wasn't just any upbringing. It was solidly middle class, very academic.
Very. His father, Ray West, was a former Black Panther, then became one of the first Black photojournalists at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Impressive stuff.
And his mother, Dr. Donna West, a huge influence. Professor of English, eventually chaired the department at Chicago State University.
Exactly. So that environment, it instills a certain kind of confidence, right? Valuing intellect, critical thinking. You can see where some of that comes from.
And it showed up early. He wasn't just playing around with music.
Not at all. Writing poetry at 5 years old. By 7th grade, he's making musical compositions and selling them to local artists.
Yeah.
Already entrepreneurial.
There's also that year in China, right? People forget that.
Yeah, when he was 10. Moved to Nanjing with his mother because she was a Fulbright scholar there. He had to pick up the language quickly, navigate a totally different culture.
He's mentioned forgetting most of the Mandarin since, but still, that kind of experience at that age, it broadens your horizons massively.
For sure. But then comes that really defining moment, the one that literally gave his first album its name.
The dropout decision.
Right. He gets a scholarship, goes to the American Academy of Art, then transfers to Chicago State, where his mother is a professor. And then at 20, he just drops out. Pursues music full-time.
Against the backdrop of that academic family, especially with his mom right there at the university, that's a statement. A real act of defiance.
It really was. It wasn't just leaving school. It was rejecting that whole expected path.
And it came central to his identity, didn't it? That core message of the college dropout.
Absolutely. The whole philosophy was, make your own decisions, don't let society tell you what you have to do. That's the first big instance of him positioning nonconformity as, like, the ultimate virtue.
But before the rapping persona really took off, he was grinding as a producer, mid-90s Chicago.
Yeah, making beats, developing his sound. Got his first official production credits when he was 19 on Grav's album Down to Earth in 96.
And his rise as a producer was, well, fast.
Meteoric is the word. By 2000, he's an in-house producer at Rockefeller Records. And the story there isn't just that he worked for them.
No, the narrative is he saved Jay-Z's career, basically, with the blueprint.
Pretty much. His soulful production on that 2001 album, it was a game changer. Suddenly the producer everyone wants.
Working with Alicia Keys, Ludacris, Janet Jackson, the go-to guy. But here's the irony, right? The guy everyone wants for beats.
Couldn't get his own rap deal.
Exactly. Why was that?
Because he didn't fit the mold. Capitol Records, others, they all turned him down. Mainstream hip-hop then was all about the gangsta image, the street narrative.
And he's talking about, what, student loans and backpacks?
Basically, yeah. Class struggles, self-consciousness, consumerism, things that weren't really dominant themes then. The labels just couldn't see him as a rapper, only a producer.
So Rockefeller, Damon Dash specifically, signs him as an artist, but almost reluctantly.
Pretty much just to keep him producing for them, to stop him going elsewhere. He really had to fight to be seen as a performer.
And that fight had a very real physical climax, the car accident.
October 2002. A near-fatal crash shatters his jaw. It's almost too poetic, right?
That-
Guy struggling to get his voice heard literally has his mouth wired shut.
But it didn't silence him. Quite the opposite.
No, it became the catalyst. Just 2 weeks later, jaw still wired, he goes into record plant studios and records Through the Wire.
Incredible.
That track, born from trauma, it forced everyone to pay attention.
Right.
To see the artist, the sheer willpower, not just the producer. The story became the sound. Hashtag #2. The progressive trilogy and the introduction of public controversy, 2003-2009.
Okay, so the College Dropout finally arrives in February 2004, and its release tells you a lot about how he operates.
Oh yeah, the album actually leaked months early, which could have been a disaster.
But for him,
He used the time. He went back in, remixed, remastered, added strings, gospel choirs. He basically treated the leak as a chance for more refinement, turning a negative into a creative positive.
and the result? Massive success. Straight to #2 on Billboard, Slow Jams hits #1, wins the Grammy for Best Rap Album right out of the gate.
And he was already challenging expectations. Remember Jesus Walks?
Oh yeah, people said a religious song wouldn't work on pop radio.
Executives definitely thought that. But it hit the top 20. It proved his point. Audiences wanted something different, something with substance, even faith.
And he wasn't just focused on his own art. That same year, 2004, he starts Good Music.
Right, the label and management company. Signed John Legend, Common, building his own platform from the very beginning.
Then comes the follow-up, Late Registration in 2005, and the scale of ambition just jumps.
It really does. He personally invested $2 million into making it. That kind of budget for a hip-hop album back then was pretty much unheard of.
Why so much? What was he going for?
Maximalism.
Yeah.
Pure sonic ambition. He spent over a year on it. Inspired by Portishead's live album, Roseland NYC Live.
But one with the orchestra.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he hires John Brion, the film composer, to help arrange a full-string orchestra. It wasn't just sampling anymore. It was intricate composition, blending that chamber pop sound with hip-hop. A huge, expensive risk.
And it paid off critically and commercially. But this is also where we start seeing the public persona get louder.
Yeah, the artistic success seems to fuel the public confrontations. 2006 MTV Europe Music Awards, he loses Best Video for Touch the Sky.
And he goes on stage anyway.
Yep. Argues he should have won. He did apologize later, even spooked it on SNL, but it was an early sign, you know. That feeling of being overlooked, that his genius wasn't getting its due from the establishment.
But the really big moment, the one everyone remembers from that time.
Hurricane Katrina benefit concert, 2005. Live TV. Mike Myers is standing next to him.
And he goes off script. George Bush doesn't care about black people.
Boom.
Yeah.
Just drops it in there. That cemented him as this figure who would use his platform for these huge controversial political statements. Even if he later walked it back, apologized in 2010, said it came from a victimized mentality.
That trilogy of albums wraps up with Graduation in 2007. Commercially, just massive.
Unbelievable numbers. Debuts at #1, sells almost 1 million copies, 957,000 in the first week.
And the sound changed again. Stronger, sampling Daft Punk. That track felt different.
It absolutely was. It wasn't just a hit single. Stronger is really credited with pushing hip-hop towards incorporating house, electronica, more European sounds. It helped kickstart that whole electropop wave in the late 2000s. Huge influence on pop radio.
But right at this peak of success, tragedy strikes.
Yeah, November 2007, his mother, Donda, dies suddenly. Complications after cosmetic surgery. Utterly devastating for him.
And that wasn't all, was it?
No, shortly after, his engagement to Alexis Pfeiffer ends too. So it's this double blow of profound personal loss.
And that grief, that trauma directly leads to another huge artistic shift.
Immediately, he channels all that pain into the next project, 2008's 808s and Heartbreak, recorded incredibly quickly, mostly just 3 weeks in Hawaii.
And the sound, a complete 180 from Graduation.
Took everyone completely by surprise. He basically abandoned rapping. He was all synth-driven, electropop, heavy auto-tune, but not in a T-Pain celebratory way.
No, it was using autotune for melancholy, for emotional distance.
Exactly. Like filtering raw emotion through this digital coldness, using his voice almost like another synthesized instrument full of sadness and isolation.
For the mainstream hip-hop audience at the time, that must have been jarring.
It was hugely divisive initially. Critics, fans, they didn't know what to make of it. But looking back, its influence is undeniable.
You hear it everywhere now.
Absolutely. 808s opened the door for rappers to sing, to be vulnerable, to use more atmospheric electronic production. Drake Kid Cudi, Travis Scott.
Mm-hmm.
So many artists owe a debt to that album. It gave a whole generation permission to experiment with melody and emotion.
So he's cemented himself as this boundary-pushing innovator.
Yeah.
And then comes the 2009 VMAs.
The Taylor Swift incident.
Yeah.
Interrupting her acceptance speech saying Beyoncé deserved the award.
The fallout was immediate and huge.
Probably the biggest celebrity PR disaster of the decade up to that point. Everyone condemned it. President Obama famously called him a jackass.
He apologized, but then seemed to walk that back, too, saying it was selfless or something.
Yeah, he framed it later as being about artistic integrity, about justice for Beyoncé's video. But the damage was done. The controversy, the spectacle, it became welded to his public image. Unavoidably so. ###33. The art of the comeback and creative extremism. 2010, 2015.
Okay, so the VMA fallout is massive. How does he respond?
Well, first he kind of disappears for a bit, a self-imposed exile, dabbled in fashion, but everyone was waiting for the musical comeback.
And he heads back to Hawaii?
Yep. Sets up shop again, but this time it's even more intense. Months of recording. It became legendary, this sort of rap camp.
What was the atmosphere like?
Communal, but also like a creative pressure cooker. He flew in his favorite producers, engineers, artists, Jay-Z, Kid Cudi, Pusha T, and basically had them living and working there 247 in shifts. Suits required at dinner, apparently, strict rules.
All focused on channeling that energy, overcoming the public shame into the music.
Exactly. And the result was My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy in 2010.
Which was just the opposite of 808s in many ways.
Totally. If 808s was minimalist and cold, MBDTF was maximalist, sprawling, opulent, complex, dealing head-on with fame, excess, self-doubt, public perception.
And the reception.
Overwhelmingly positive. Almost universally acclaimed as a masterpiece, his best work. It absolutely cemented his comeback. It's often called one of the greatest albums, period, of the 21st century.
He also had that clever release strategy, the Good Fridays.
Right. Releasing free, high-quality tracks every Friday leading up to the album, built incredible hype, kept him in the conversation constantly. Genius marketing, really.
And he wasn't just thinking about audio, the Runaway film.
Yeah, the 35-minute short film he wrote, directed, and starred in.
Yeah.
Using the music from MBDTF, he saw this as a bigger artistic statement, not just an album. A whole visual world.
After that huge success, he leaned into collaboration. Watch The Throne with Jay-Z in 2011.
A massive event album. And they were smart about the release, too, trying to beat the pirates.
How'd they do that?
Dropped it digitally first, weeks before the physical CDs. It helped control leaks and make sure the initial sales counted properly. Pretty savvy move for the time.
But Kanye being Kanye, after reaching this peak of accepted brilliance,
He pivots. Hard. Again.
uses 2013, and this time the goal was almost anti-commercial.
Explicitly so. He said he wanted to undermine the commercial, to basically tear down the sound he'd just perfected.
So what did Jesus sound like?
Harsh. Abrasive. Minimalist, but aggressive. It pulled from industrial music, acid house, Jamaican dance hall, Chicago drill. Very raw, distorted sounds.
And the story of making that album is wild too, right? With Rick Rubin?
Absolutely legendary. He calls in Rick Rubin like 15 days before the deadline.
Just 2 weeks out.
Yeah, and tells Rubin to basically strip everything down, make it even more minimal, more sparse.
Yeah.
Rubin famously said he was taking layers out, not adding them.
That decision, bringing Rubin in at the 11th hour to deconstruct everything, that says so much about his process. It's about impact, shock, not just polish.
Totally. It was confrontational. He wanted it to feel jagged, unfinished almost.
Yeah.
A direct reaction against the lushness of MBDTF.
And the tour for Yeezus reflected that.
Oh, completely. Masks, Margiela, stark staging, performance art elements. It was controversial, polarizing, but critics actually lauded the risk-taking.
Right, I remember reviews calling it bonkers, but brilliant, praising him for doing something genuinely challenging.
He'd successfully flipped the script again.
Yeah.
Success wasn't just sales. It was about provoking a reaction, dictating the cultural conversation on his own terms.
And during this period, he's also reaching across generations, collaborating with Paul McCartney.
Yeah, the song Only One, which was incredibly stripped down and personal, supposedly from his mother's perspective. And then 4 or 5 Seconds with McCartney and Rihanna. Huge hit, very different sound again.
It all seemed to culminate in this big moment of institutional acceptance in 2015.
The honorary doctorate from the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, recognizing him not just as a musician, but as this broader cultural force in art and fashion. A really significant nod.
Although, we have to add the footnote.
Right. That same doctorate was rescinded in 2022, which tells you a lot about the next chapter, #RV. Shifting identity, mental health, and the faith era. 2016, 2022.
Yeah, that next phase, starting around 2016 with the life of Pablo, feels less stable, more chaotic.
Definitely. Pablo itself embodied that. Remember all the title changes? So help me God. Swish, waves.
Yeah.
He couldn't land on it.
And even after it came out, exclusively on Tidal at first, he kept changing it.
Yeah, tweaking mixes, altering lyrics, even adding whole songs after release. He called it a living, breathing, changing creative expression.
Which is a fascinating artistic concept, the album never being truly finished.
But also incredibly frustrating for listeners. It defied the whole idea of a finished product. He was asserting total control, even post-release.
But the art was getting tangled with controversy again. The famous video.
Oh boy, yeah, the lifelike nude wax figures of Taylor Swift, Trump, George Bush, Bill Cosby, just laid out in a bed.
Pure provocation, designed to shock, to blur lines between art and, well, celebrity effigy.
It definitely got the reaction he likely wanted. But then things took a much darker turn later that year, the St. Pablo tour.
Right. He started having these long on-stage rants, ending shows early, or just not showing up.
And then, abruptly, canceled the last 21 dates. News breaks that he's been hospitalized. Psychiatric observation.
What was the official reason given?
Initial reports cited temporary psychosis due to extreme sleep deprivation and dehydration. This led to the public learning about his bipolar disorder diagnosis, which he later confirmed.
He even referenced it directly on the cover of the Ye album in 2018. I hate being bipolar. It's awesome.
Right. But here's where it gets complicated again. Since then, he's repeatedly questioned that diagnosis.
Suggested it was a misdiagnosis, attributed symptoms to other things.
Exactly. Sometimes sleep deprivation, other times suggesting he might be autistic. He even claimed in early 2025 to have received a professional autism diagnosis, though the details around that remain somewhat murky.
And alongside the mental health struggles, there were other very personal disclosures.
Yeah, he talked openly about opioid addiction after liposuction surgery, addictions to alcohol, sex, pornography, even experiencing suicidal thoughts. It was a period of intense personal turmoil spilling into public view.
And all this becomes fuel for the next creative burst, the Wyoming Sessions in 2018.
Kind of a retreat, yeah. He bought property there, announced he was writing a philosophy book called Break the Simulation, started posting these sort of life coaching aphorisms on Twitter.
A shift towards being seen as more than just a musician, a thinker, a spiritual guide almost.
Seems like it. And the music from that period reflected it. The very personal Ye album, the Kids See Ghosts collaboration with Kid Cudi, which explored mental health themes.
But the biggest shift was yet to come, the full pivot to Christianity.
Sunday service. Starting in early 2019, these exclusive, invite-only gatherings, often outdoors, with huge choirs, gospel arrangements of his songs, other hymns, it became a phenomenon.
And that led directly to the album Jesus is King in 2019.
His first explicitly Christian gospel album, and commercially historic success.
How so?
It topped 5 different Billboard charts simultaneously. The main Billboard 200, R&B, hip-hop, rap, Christian, and gospel charts. No one had ever done that before. It showed he could completely change lanes and still dominate.
And during this time, the name change happens.
October 2021 officially becomes just Ye. He said it was for personal reasons, referencing the biblical meaning of Ye as you, representing a collective identity, maybe shedding the ego of Kanye West.
The final big musical project of this era was Donda in 2021, which also had a very strange rollout.
Extremely strange. Multiple huge listening parties in stadiums.
Right, he was literally living in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta to finish it.
Yeah, set up a studio and a locker room,
Yep.
built enormous hype. But then, when it finally dropped, he claimed Universal released it without his final approval.
Again, asserting that control over the final product even after release. A recurring theme, #V, personal life, business ventures, and extreme public views, 2012 present.
Okay, so moving into the more recent period, focusing on his personal life and business, the scale just keeps expanding. The relationship with Kim Kardashian, obviously.
Started dating 2012, married 2014. It wasn't just a celebrity couple, it was a cultural force. The New York Times called it that historic blizzard of celebrity.
And they have 4 children together, North, Saint, and then Chicago and Psalm, born via surrogate. But the marriage ended, finalized in 2022.
With a significant financial settlement. Right.
Yes, $200,000 a month in child support, plus splitting costs for education, medical, security. Highlights the immense wealth involved.
His relationships have often been public and sometimes messy. Amber rose before Kim.
Right, dated 2008-2010. She later accused him of bullying her, slut-shaming after they broke up.
And more recently, that very short, very public fling with Julia Fox in early 2022.
Which Fox herself later described almost transactionally, saying she did it partly to distract him from his public arguments with Kim during the divorce.
Then came the informal marriage to Bianca Censori, the Australian architect, in January 2023.
Informal being the key word, no legal standing. Their relationship has been under intense media scrutiny, lots of provocative outfits. There were reports in spring 2025 that she'd left him over controversial tweets.
But they were seen together again shortly after.
Exactly. The status seems volatile, very public.
And amidst all this, a really shocking personal claim he made in April 2025.
Deeply disturbing, yeah. Claiming he had an incestuous relationship with a male cousin when they were children, stemming from trying to mimic pornography they'd seen. Just a bombshell disclosure.
Shifting to business. Donda, the company, founded 2012. What was the idea there?
Hugely ambitious. The goal was to pick up where Steve Jobs left off, to aesthetically improve everything. It became the umbrella for his various creative projects, known for that very distinct minimalist style.
And fashion was always central, from early sneaker collabs.
And Bapestas, then the Nike Air Yeezys, huge deal. First non-athlete signature shoe with Nike. That really set the stage.
And then the big one. The Yeezy clothing and sneaker line with Adidas, starting in 2015. That became enormous.
A fashion empire. Hugely influential, massively profitable. But this is where his public statements started having direct, unavoidable business consequences.
The anti-Semitic comments in late 2022.
A prolonged series of them across interviews, social media. It became impossible for partners to ignore. Adidas finally terminated the Yeezy partnership in October 2022.
And the financial hit was immediate.
Catastrophic. His net worth, estimated around $1.8 billion in 2021, reportedly dropped to about $400 million after losing Adidas and the Gap deal around the same time. Just a massive, self-inflicted financial blow.
He also dipped his toes into politics, the 2020 presidential run.
Yeah, ran as an independent, the birthday party. Conceded pretty quickly. But later reports suggested GOP operatives were secretly involved, maybe to siphon votes, though the campaign denied explicit coordination.
And he admitted he didn't really know much about policy.
Openly admitted ignorance on taxes, foreign policy. It felt more like performance art than a serious campaign to many.
But the rhetoric took a truly extreme turn after that, late 2022 onwards.
That's when the explicit anti-Semitism really ramped up, culminating in that December 2022 InfoWars appearance.
Where he praised Hitler, denied the Holocaust, called himself a Nazi, just absolutely shocking statements.
Followed by using swastika imagery online, getting kicked off Twitter again. The condemnation was universal.
And the fallout wasn't just sponsors dropping him. There were real-world consequences.
Yes, the Anti-Defamation League put out a report linking his rhetoric directly to incidents of anti-Semitic vandalism, harassment, even violence across the U.S. A terrifying impact.
Even his recent music has been caught up in this. The Vultures albums with Ty Dolla $ign had controversial lyrics, and his planned solo album,
Bully, then retitled In a Perfect World, he declared he wouldn't put it on streaming platforms, specifically blaming French and Jewish record labels, just doubling down on the rhetoric.
and now mounting legal issues too.
Seems so. The lawsuit against his dentist in May 2025, alleging he enabled a nitrous oxide dependency, plus multiple lawsuits piling up from 2024 to 2025.
Alleging what?
Serious things. Racial discrimination, sexual harassment, wrongful termination, even sexual assault and strangulation brought by former employees, associates, a former model, a whole wave of legal battles. Hashtag Swigs. Musical legacy, style, and cultural influence.
It's overwhelming, the scale of the recent controversies, the legal troubles. But if we try, just for a moment, to look purely at the musical legacy, it's undeniable, isn't it?
Objectively, yeah.
Yep.
His impact on music is revolutionary. His entire career is defined by constant stylistic shifts, radical experimentation, but somehow often keeping it accessible, pop-savvy.
Let's talk about that sound. Early on, the chipmunk soul.
Right, that signature sound he pioneered, taking old soul samples, speeding them up, pitching them high. He gave his early beats this really warm, nostalgic, yet energetic feel.
How did that compare to what else was happening in hip-hop then?
It was a huge contrast to the dominant, gritty, minimalist boom-bap sound. His production was lush, melodic, often quite emotional. And lyrically, he just broke the mold.
Moving away from the gangsta narratives.
Completely. Talking about college, work, insecurity, consumerism, racism, more introspective middle-class concerns, things that weren't typically front and center in mainstream rap.
And that opened doors, didn't it?
Massively. He proved you could be commercially huge without adhering to that hardcore image. paved the way for a whole generation of artists exploring different themes and sounds. Drake, J. Cole, Childish Gambino.
And the way he just kept changing styles, it's almost unparalleled in the mainstream.
The progression is wild when you list it out. Late Registration brings in chamber pop. Graduation leans into arena rock, Europop.
Then the 808s shock. Synth pop, auto-tune vocals.
Followed by Yeezus, industrial acid house drill, deliberately abrasive.
And then the complete turn to gospel and Christian rap with Jesus is King and Donda.
It's staggering. Name another artist at that level of fame who has successfully reinvented their core sound so dramatically, so many times, and kept hitting #1.
So the critical acclaim makes sense. He's consistently called one of the most important artists of our time.
Yeah, critics recognize that constant innovation, that influence. He shares the record with Bob Dylan for most albums, topping the Paz and Jop critics poll 4 each. That speaks volumes.
And you see his influence cited by artists across genres, not just rappers.
Drake, Nicki Minaj, sure, but also Lorde, James Blake, Rosalia. His impact on production, melody, and just artistic risk-taking is incredibly widespread.
The stats back it up, too. The chart records.
Tied with Eminem, 9 consecutive studio albums debuting at #1 on Billboard 200. That level of sustained dominance is rare. Plus, major awards like the Billboard Artist Achievement Award, the MTV Video Vanguard Award. The industry recognized his impact for years. Hashtag tag outro.
So, wrapping this up, what we've really traced here are these two parallel tracks, right? On one hand, this undeniable sonic genius, constantly evolving, breaking molds from the college dropout challenging norms to this boundary-obliterating figure.
And on the other hand, this trajectory where that same impulse to challenge, to provoke, when applied outside of music to public statements, politics, social issues, has led to this intense backlash, the loss of partnerships, the legal quagmire, the extreme controversy.
It's the central paradox, isn't it? That original ethos from the college dropout, make your own decisions, reject the status quo, it fueled incredible artistic success.
But when that rejection turned towards, basic social contracts, towards deeply offensive rhetoric, it resulted in this catastrophic loss of institutional standing. The rescinded degree, the terminated deals worth billions.
Yeah, as you said, the music often still charts. People still listen. There's an enduring cultural pull despite everything.
Which brings us right back to that core idea. If your whole career is built on pushing boundaries, artistic, commercial, eventually maybe moral, is there a point where destroying those boundaries becomes almost inevitable? Part of the artistic identity itself, even if it leads to self-destruction.
It leaves us with a difficult question, maybe the difficult question for you, the listener, to consider. We've seen the immense cost of his recent expressions financially, reputationally, socially.
So when an artist's work is so deeply woven into the fabric of the culture, like his undeniably is, can you separate the art from the artist? Is it possible to value the musical innovation while condemning the creator's harmful actions?
And maybe even more fundamentally, should we even try to make that separation? Or does the creator's conduct inevitably change how we experience or should experience the art itself?